Today, we're diving into a story that might just change the way you think about the history of technology. It's the story of the Z1 computer, a totally revolutionary machine that was born in, well, the most unexpected place you can imagine. So let me ask you a question. When you think of the person who invented the first programmable computer, who comes to mind? Probably someone from Britain or America, right? Maybe you're picturing a big university lab funded by the government. Well, what if I told you the answer we're looking at today isn't in some famous lab, but in a regular old apartment in Berlin, all the way back in the late 1930s, just as the world was teetering on the brink of war? So, who was the genius behind this incredible machine? Let's meet one of the true, unsung pioneers of our digital world. This is Konrad Zuse. Back in 1936, he was a young engineer working on airplanes. You know, a good, stable job. But he was completely obsessed with an idea. What if he could automate all the boring, repetitive calculations he had to do? So he did something pretty crazy. He quit his job to build a machine that only existed in his head. And where did he get the money for this wild dream? No big investors, no government grants. This was a true passion project. His parents chipped in, his sister gave him some money, and he got a little bit from his fraternity buddies and a local business. I mean, this was basically a garage startup before that was even a thing. And let's be clear, the machine he was building in that apartment wasn't some little gadget. Oh no, it was a mechanical monster, an absolute beast of complexity and size that was going to push the boundaries of what anyone thought was possible. When it was all said and done, the thing weighed 1 metric ton. That's over 2,000 pounds. And it was made of 20,000 separate, individual parts, most of which, by the way, Zuse and his friends had to cut themselves with a jigsaw. And here's the absolute best part. This 1-ton, 20,000-part mechanical computer was built entirely in his parents' living room. Can you just imagine that scene? Okay, so what made this living room computer so incredibly groundbreaking? Let's dig into the technical side of things. Welcome to Section 2, A Mind Made of Metal. All right, this is the key takeaway. The Z1 was the world's first programmable computer to use two concepts that are literally the DNA of every single computer, phone, and tablet we use today. Boolean logic, which is just a fancy way of saying it could make yes or no decisions, and binary numbers. This was a huge, huge conceptual jump. I mean, just look at this list. It shows you how far ahead of his time Zuse was. The Z1 had all the essential parts of a modern computer: a control unit to act as the brain, a memory, and separate ways to get information in and out. He basically designed the fundamental architecture for computers without even knowing it. And the way it worked was just so clever. Programs were actually punched into old 3D 5mm movie film. You'd feed that into the machine. The control unit would read the instructions, tell the calculation part what to do, and then it would spit out the answer. Now, one of Zuse's most brilliant moves was the memory. See, at the time, everyone else was using these big, clunky, and expensive telephone relays. But Zuse came up with a totally new system, using these thin metal sheets with little slots in them. He even got a patent for it. It was way faster, a lot smaller, and much, much cheaper. And here's my favorite little detail. You're not going to believe what powered this mechanical brain. It was an electric motor that Zuse literally ripped out of a vacuum cleaner, and it gave the machine a clock speed of 1 hertz. That's 1 single calculation per second. Just amazing. But as amazing as the whole design was, there was one tiny problem. And that brings us to our next section, brilliant but broken. You see, the thing that made the Z1 so cool, the fact that it was all mechanical, was also its biggest weakness. Trying to get 20,000 moving metal parts to work together perfectly all the time was practically impossible. Because of tiny little imperfections in the metal, the machine, it just never really worked reliably. And nobody summed it up better than Zuse himself. Years later, somebody asked him about a replica he'd built, and he just said, with this perfect dry wit, "Back then it didn't function well, and in that regard, the replica is very reliable. It also doesn't work well." But the story of this flawed masterpiece doesn't stop there. Its last chapter is just incredible. It's a story of tragic loss and unbelievable determination. This is our final section, Lost and Found. This timeline just lays out the whole dramatic story. So Zuse finishes the computer in 1938, but then in 1943, during an Allied bombing raid on Berlin, the entire thing is destroyed. And not just the machine, all of his blueprints and plans gone. The invention was basically erased from existence. But, and this is amazing, in 1984, Zuse, then an old man, started redrawing the entire thing from memory and finished rebuilding it in 1989.
And today, you can go see that rebuilt Z1. It's on display at the German Museum of Technology in Berlin. It's a real, physical monument to Konrad Zuse's incredible vision, a piece of history that was almost lost to us forever.
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. Zuse's entire story, this crucial piece of computer history, was almost wiped out by the chaos of war. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other brilliant ideas and how many other forgotten pioneers just like him have been completely lost to history?